move that this important bill for establishment of National Sports Commission. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the general principles of this bill, which seek to establish the National Sports Commission. The bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 26 November 2019. The bill essentially seeks to establish the National Sports Commission, NSC, to be charged with the responsibility of administering, encouraging, and development of sport games throughout the country. The functions of the Commission, amongst others, include A, to encourage the development, organization, and participation in sports in Nigeria. B, to coordinate and integrate efforts to raise the standard of performance in sports throughout Nigeria. To maintain every stadium owned or controlled by the federal government and direct all activities related thereto. The Commission shall, in all international relations affecting sports, have the sole right to make, or on behalf of the Sports Council, any necessary arrangement for competitions, technical assistance, recruitment of coaches, and for any such other matters as Commission may think fit. Without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1 of this section, it shall be the duty of the Commission A, to promote, in cooperation with other sports bodies or sports groups, the physical fitness and general well-being of all persons in Nigeria, to organize or assist financially or otherwise the participation in sports at interstate, national, and international level, to train Nigerians to become sportsmen and instructors in sports, to conduct and encourage research into all matters relating to sports. E, to provide and maintain sports centers and facilities for the training of Nigerians as instructors and organizers of sports, to ensure the participation of all sportsmen and women where required in interstate, national, or international competitions. This bill seeks to change Nigerian sports to bring them in line with international best practice, especially in areas of sports administration, global competitions, as well as welfare of footballers and athletes generally. There is no gainsaying the fact that Nigerian sports is generally in hostile state right now. Not too long ago, Nigerian literally bred sports experts from athletics, boxing, football, to tennis, long tennis, and Greco-Roman wrestling. Nigeria has suffered greatly from disconnect that has existed between our sports history and our current performance. We need to reorganize the fact that our history was created for a reason, and that the best of our future truly lies on how we are able to manage historical events and pass it on from one generation to the other. In sports process, discovery, development, maintenance, competitions, and retention are areas that can be so simplified by design and implementation, but you must understand and know how to work it. Every stage requires the right team, combination of coaches, administrators, sports medicine, trainers, sports psychologists, volunteers, supporters, and of course, reliable source for sponsorship in cohesiveness with one goal in mind. This is to produce the best from the available pool of sportsmen and women. With this, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the establishment of the National Sports Commission will ensure us a rapid development. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the organization of formal sports dated back to 1910 with the introduction of Empire Day competition, which was organized on inter-schools basis. The establishment of mission schools in different parts of Nigeria assisted in development of sports in that era. The involvement of government in sports dated back to 1962 with the establishment of the National Sports Council, which functioned under the Federal Ministry of Labor. This was later replaced by the National Sports Commission with the promulgation of Decree 34 of 1971. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, realizing the importance of sports, government in 1975 upgraded the National Sports Commission to ministerial status and appointed a minister of cabinet rank to oversee its affairs in 1991. The National Sports Commission re-emerged with the promulgation of that year. This body, which became a parastatal under the Ministry of Youth and Sports and was mainly responsible for the administration of sports in the country through the National Sports Association. In 1995, the National Sports Commission was scrapped and the Minister of Youth and Sports took over its functions. In 2007, the Ministry of Sports and Social Development was scrapped again. National Sports Commission was brought back. Recently, the National Sports Commission under this present administration has been scrapped yet again. The resultant effect of this scrapping was the poor preparation of the Nigerian contingents to Rio Olympic, resulting in shambolic display of our athletes in that tournament. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this bill could not have come at better time than now to give legal backing to this important commission to help rejuvenate the Nigerian sports industry so as to make it become a serious business. This bill has no financial implication. The National Sports Commission has been off and on. The structure and everything it takes for its takeoff are available at the Ministry of Sports and Youth Development. I once again thank you for your kind attention and urge you all to support this bill for second reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator.
My distinguished and respected colleague, Senator Albert Basi Akpan, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, I rise to support the second reading of this important bill, and I wish to say that inconsistency is the bane of our national sports development. Mr. President, I'm aware that it is only through under the structure of the National Sports Commission that we can properly articulate a clearly defined roadmap that will make this country one of the sport giants in the world. Mr. President, if there is anything that unites a people, it is sports, not just football, sports generally. Because every area has its own comparative advantage over the other. But looking at it from the standpoint of our national discourse, Mr. President, today we have seen Nigerians taking citizenship across the world. Even the latest, Adesoya, who is doing so well in combat wrestling, he's based in New Zealand. So Nigerians are constantly seeking greener pastures abroad. But under a commission of this nature, Mr. President, I know that one thing is always certain. A minister for youth and sport will always see the commission as a contender. But that should not be the case. Because there is no way you set up a commission of this nature that will not be headed by the minister. So I want to say that I think it's time we call a spade a spade. And let us begin to look at those things that we can do that will enable us to leave a lasting legacy for future generations. Most Nigerians, I have a son who is taking after football. I want to play football for this country. So if we cannot guarantee a structure that will lead to a sustainable future, how can we then guarantee the future of our children? So I think, Mr. President, it's time for us as a country and as a people to do the right thing. I think history will be fair to you and will be fair to this National Assembly if the right thing gets done, and it gets done now. I so support, Mr. President. Thank you.
The new Senator I.D. Gyang from Plateau North, and for the purpose of today's sitting, the Minority Leader. Mr. President, I want to speak in support of this bill that is for the establishment of National Sports Commission, and to agree very strongly with the sponsor of the bill that this commission will be responsible for the administering, encouraging, and developing sports and games throughout Nigeria. I want to take a look at the other assignment that this commission will be doing, and that of maintaining our stadia and other sporting facilities. Mr. President, if you look at our national stadium here in Abuja and the ones that were built in Lagos and what has become of them, it all affected by our poor maintenance culture. And as a nation, we cannot be investing so much in facilities that are meant to promote sports and allow them to dilapidate. When we have an institution that will be positioned to devote its attention to the maintenance of critical national assets that are of sporting dimension, like the Commission, I think we should encourage that. I therefore support very strongly the reading of this bill at this point, and to also say that it will help us to institutionalize the professionalization of sport and sporting activities in our nation. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want other speakers to support that this bill be allowed to pass on second reading. Thank you.
The Chief Whip.
My name is Ojo Zakalo from Abia North. In supporting this bill, I have to talk from experience. I was a member of National Sports Commission from 1991 to 1996. And it was only when there was that Sports Commission that this country made a headway in coming internationally. So there's a need to get back the National Sports Commission without being said. And also as a pillar of sports, both in Nigeria and Africa, I know the need internationally that all the countries are operating with National Sports Commission. Nobody goes for a Ministry of Sport because it's cumbersome to go back to the ministry. The process of getting our sportsmen and women when we went to the World Cup in 1994, it was only through the National Sports Commission that it was made, because my chairman then, I was a member of the National Sports Commission, directly in charge of football. Because my chairman then, Sebastian Williams, may he so rest in peace, Chief S.B. Williams, we made sure that every equipment needed by the sportsmen and women were provided. So there's a need for country to go back to National Sports Commission. Without arguing it, it's not something to argue about. Ministry of Sports cannot handle sports directly in a country like Nigeria, where we have men and women all over the world. We have a lot of Nigerians in the United States, a lot of Nigerians in the UK, a lot of Nigerians, because the sports administration is not uniform. Parallel to the United States, to New Zealand, to Australia, to anywhere you go, people are finding it difficult to operate. So I urge my colleagues and Mr. President to have a need to reconsider the decision in advising our executive to bring back National Sports Commission for the interest of sports. Even managing our stadium. Look at all the stadiums that are gone Because having somebody which his duty is to go to the stadium every week, every day, those stadiums are rotting away because they're supposed to be income yielding, they're supposed to be used for all kinds of things, they're supposed to be sports, national school sports, local government sports, or not. It's only the National Sports Commission can call it a duty to make sure that we are focused on what sports should be. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity.
Senator.
All the prayers this bill is seeking. In doing so, Mr. President, I'll be speaking against the background of my exposure into sports. Senator Obinna will attest to it that for a long time, I was reporting sporting activities across the globe. I had the privilege of covering the Olympic Games. I had the privilege of covering Commonwealth Games and so many other international competitions across continents. And I will tell you, Mr. President, that Nigeria is a nation that is endowed with men and women that can do far better than the achievement we have recorded in time past. But we actually lack the framework to harness and develop the potentials, God-given potentials. I want to commend my brother Obinna for bringing this bill, because I think the time is now, more than ever before, to see how we can really see sports beyond just mere entertainment. Sport, Mr. President, is business. Sport is a weapon for diplomacy. Sport is one single human endeavor that can redeem the image of nations of the world. Mr. President, some 15 years ago, when you travel out of this country, you see you see foreigners asking you about the names of our stars, of our athletes. Today, it's no longer the same story. The other aspect that is complementary sport, for instance, Mr. President, is the other one, the Nollywood. I've heard people asking you some of the stars there. But in terms of sportsmen and women, we are lacking now compared with what it was some 15, 20 years ago. So this bill is seeking for the establishment of the National Sport Commission in such a manner that it's going to be focused in the development of sports. And like I said, sport is one industry that we must encourage. More so, Mr. President, we are faced with a large army of unemployed young men and women who could excel and become professionals in the field of sport and bring laurels and fame and money to our nation. I think, Mr. President, this bill will definitely have the support of all of us so that we can have sport as an industry, as a weapon of diplomacy. I recall that in some decades when Nigeria decided or threatened to pull out of some sports competitions, you see it affects all of the other countries in Africa tend to follow the trend of Nigeria, the position of Nigerian sport. So this commission is so important that we must give them the framework to operate, to develop young men and women, and the facilities. Today, Mr. President, you look at some of our stadia, they are now in a rotten state because nobody really cares there's no enabling law. The National Sport Commission needs to have an enabling law that will compel them to develop and manage the sporting facilities on one hand and equally encourage sport competitions across the length and breadth of our nation, from this primary school level to the tertiary institution. I hope that, Mr. President, this bill will receive the support of all of us towards redeeming our image in the area of sport and towards us as a nation appreciating that sport is more than entertainment. It is an industry.
Wa alaikum salam.
Mr. President, how do we make our nation a sporting nation? Right now, we have a lot of random sportsmen and women in various sports across Nigeria. But achieving those heights in sports, winning those gold medals, winning those sporting championships is a challenge for us in our country. So I think that a bill like this goes towards, or is a major piece of solving that problem. We know that in other countries, in the United States, in Jamaica, and so on, where they have continued to produce Olympic champions, for instance, there is a system in place. There's a system that has run in the United States, for instance, for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And that system continues to produce gold medalists. In our country, we have a problem with a system that continues to produce champions. When I was growing up in secondary school, there was a system for producing Nigerian academicals, state academicals. There was the Principal's Cup and so on. This was a system that produced footballers. Today, we don't have those systems. Even for athletes, we don't have that system. So I want to commend the mover of this motion that this bringing back the National Sports Commission that has a major plank of organizing sports development in this country is something that we should all support. And I want to support it fully for second reading because it is this type of organization that we need in our sports in this country. Nigerians have the inbuilt capacity. We have the genetic ability. We have everything. We have the physical ability. What we do not have and what we lack is the organization. And this bill goes to solve and cure that problem. And therefore, I want to urge all my colleagues in this chamber to support this bill for second reading and to support it wholeheartedly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there anybody against the bill? We now read a second time. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. A bill for an act to establish the National Sports Commission to be charged with the responsibility of administering, encouraging, and developing sports and games throughout Nigeria and other matters incidental there to 2020. Second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Sports to report back within 4 weeks. Let me commend our colleagues for the various contributions, and I agree completely that with over 200 million people, citizens of Nigeria, we have all the required and necessary raw materials to produce champions of the world. About 2 weeks ago, the ambassador of Jamaica paid me a courtesy call. I know what his gift to me, and I appreciate that very, very much, was a book on Usain Bolt. That was what he brought to me. Usain Bolt, by the way, was the indisputable champion of the 100-meter race for many years, both Olympics and other championships. And we can have several of them. We used to have Obanike, is it Obanike? Who was also a 100 meters champion, and many, many others. I think in addition to sports or diplomacy, it's also, like the smart, our colleague Smart Ademi said, it's one way of engaging our youth. If we have our stadia functioning and you create the enabling environment, many of our youth will be going there in the evening or in the morning. And in the process, you get champions in the field of football, boxing. In fact, the history of many champions, boxing champions, trace them back to streets, so to speak, street fights and maybe some kind of difficult life. We don't have to misuse this kind of opportunity. We have everything that we need to produce the champions of the world. And those Nigerians who have decided to go outside, many of them are doing very, very well. Today, maybe the benefit we get is their remittances to their families. We want them to be truly Nigerian, so that when they come back, they also give the kind of they become role models for young Nigerians to aspire to be like them. The basketball legend, Olujon, the basketball legend of Rockets, used to come to Nigeria before when he was at the peak of his career. And young Nigerians aspire to be like him. We need this kind of thing to help utilize our human resources that we have. So I congratulate the sponsor of the motion, the bill, that we establish the National Sports Commission, and hope that we are able to get these raw materials, these Nigerians who are there, who have energy, that we can tap to produce national and international champions all over the place. Thank you, congratulations. Leader of the Senate.